From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up War Chant, proudly presented by Zaxby's, indescribably good. I'm Aslan, Corey Clark here as well. We work for WarChant.com. You know that. You know the promo code. It's WarChant30. You know what it does. It gives you 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. Use it, and then enter our under-over competition, which is coming a little bit later, and you can win free Zaxby's. That'd be delicious. And we have a new little twist, Corey. We got some apparel we're going to give away. We're going to tweet out the photo of a T-shirt that features just maybe the best piece of domestic artwork since, I don't know, an Ansel Adams photograph that's probably in the Smithsonian somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good pull, Ansel Adams. My dad used to love him, by the way, and those photos of the trees he would take. Yeah. But anyway, it's really great. It's remarkable. The likeness on me especially, it's pretty remarkable. Brady, I showed Brady a picture of it, and the T-shirt was in the back of my car, and he looked at it and couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah,
he said my head looked like an oval, and I'm like, well, that's how it goes, Brady. Your dad's head does look like an oval.
Big brain case.
Exactly. Got to fit it in here somehow.
Also helps you absorb the blows that life hands your way every now and then, including being an Atlanta sports fan, namely the Braves. I mean, can we just talk a little bit about what happened on Wednesday and the way you how you attacked the day, how you reacted to the day, and where you stand now?
Well, it was just so demoralizing, man, to be out of the game, to know the season's over before you've gotten a second out in the first inning. Like, literally, they had 9 runs, I think, before we got our second out, whatever it was. And then, of course, their 10th run scored on the drop third strike, because why wouldn't it? Hey, I don't think they hit a home run, though, so that was good. But, yeah, man, I was thinking about it, and I'm pragmatic. I'm realistic. I didn't think they had enough arms or bats to win the World Series anyway, but I'm always like that. But the pragmatic side was, well, man, I'd rather be a Braves fan than a Dodgers fan.
Oh, yeah.
Because that team was stacked. That team dominated the National League, and that team had a 3-0 lead in a Game 5 at home, and then somehow blew it, and is now their season's over. And it's nothing but a crushing disappointment. Like, at least I came to grips with the Braves season being over by the first inning. Those Dodger fans were hopeful until the 8th.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, if it's close or not really. Like, say Jameis stays for 13, he exhausts his eligibility. He redshirts in 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and he goes for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns every single season. 13, he loses to Auburn and Pasadena. 14, he falls to Oregon in the playoff. 15, he falls to Oklahoma in the playoff. And then in 16, he loses to Bama in the playoff. Like, is that still worse? Is that close or not even close to what Clayton Kershaw does when it comes to the regular season, and then when he hits the postseason, everything just goes wrong?
Yeah, man, it depends. If Jameis played awfully he was great in the regular season and then was giving away games in the
that's what I'm saying. Just
in the postseason. Yeah,
like goes his playoff postseason is like 3 touchdowns and 10 picks.
Yeah, well then, that's Kershaw. It's really bizarre. And Maddox used to have kind of the same reputation when he was with the Braves, because he was so incredible in the regular season, and in the postseason he was just really good. Like, I think his postseason RA is like 3.1, but people act like it was 6 because in the regular season his ERA would be like 1.8 or 2.10. But Kershaw's not quite like that. Like, Kershaw's numbers are bad, not for Kershaw, they're bad for a pitcher. Right. Like, for a major league pitcher, they're bad. That's the difference. Maddox's numbers were bad for Maddox. But yeah, man, and what do you think? What do Dodger fans think of that guy? And Braves fans are kind of going through it with Freddie Freeman. Like, the guy is awesome in the regular season, and then he was the reason the Braves lost this series. He was terrible, and he made a huge error in the first inning that they should have just gotten out of the inning with 1 run, but they didn't. But yeah, so I think. Man, I just can't imagine what Dodger fans are thinking about Kershaw right now. I can't imagine what they think about that guy, because he is so good in the regular season. He has been such a great Dodger. he is going to be a Hall of Famer. But, man, he's had some really big blow-ups in the postseason. And at some point, stop putting him in those positions. Understand what he is and what he isn't. And you have a closer, and you have a decent bullpen. Why would you go to Kershaw? It's just bizarre anyway.
I wonder if, negativity feeds into negative. I mean, I have a good friend who's a Dodgers fan, and he was like, I can't believe they're bringing him in. And then after he got the strikeout in the 7th or whatever, he's like, I can't believe they're bringing him back out. I just wonder if, imagine if we had Twitter back in the 90s after the second wide right. Just the way Bowden would have been buried. Just like, he's never going to do it.
Right.
Because, I'm sure that sentiment was there, but he obviously couldn't gain traction and build a mob sort of to have a cloud hanging over your program or your favorite team. But we don't have to worry about that. We're not going to be in the World Series. We're probably not going to be in the playoff. But we do get to play the number 2 team in the nation on Saturday, Corey. Any other thoughts been ruminating on your mind as Florida State gets ready to play Clemson on Saturday? You and I both will be attending on behalf of the brand, warchant.com. I haven't been to Death Valley since 2007, Jimbo's first game. He invited me up there. Asked me if I wanted to kind of watch on the sideline. I said, no, I'd hang on in the crowd with my friends.
Right.
Had a little bit of not buyer's remorse, but it was like, damn, man, I really wanted you to be the OC, and this is what you've given me? So I've only been there once. I haven't been there since Dabo has been there, but we're going to the Mecca of college football, which is Clemson, South Carolina. Can you believe it?
I don't know if I'd call it the Mecca, but I like watching games from there. It's a neat place to watch a game, especially in this conference with what were the other options. It's a cool place to watch a game, and no, nothing really. I don't think anything differently than I did 2 days. By the way, how did the non-Corey show go?
It went. Ira did great, man. I just I'm
now,
always intimidated.
Did he do great, or you just you can be honest? Nobody's listening. Between you and me, how did he do?
No, he emptied out some nuggets. I think that were important. I mean, he did a pretty decent dive into Levitt. Theories on why Levitt did come when he did, what it really does mean. Will he be? I talked about on his show, Showtime with Ira Schofel, which can be seen on Warchant and YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page, everybody. We're over 14,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's totally free. Keep doing that. I appreciate that, everybody. Yeah, it's just Ira's got this vast knowledge because he's just. So when I'm done at work, when I'm done at the fields, I'm done. I pack my stuff up and I leave. Ira just kind of slowly, he makes his way out. He's got a whole bunch of people to talk to, but he's sourcing stuff all the time. It's nonstop with him. So I thought it was interesting because you and I, we've talked about Jim Levitt, what he's kind of meant for the defense. It's a pretty sort of safe assumption to put, to go from, point A to point B with the way this team has grown since he's shown up. But, Ira's kind of been like, well, there's no guarantee he stays here. And I'm like, well, obviously there's no guarantee, but why would he? Ira thinks there's a possibility that maybe if somebody wants to poach Levitt, better opportunities, maybe more money, Levitt takes it. But my thing is why would you come here week 3 if you didn't have intentions of staying here for more than 8 weeks? If you want to keep your profile and your visibility and your name in the field, hey, I'm still out here doing things. Look at what I'm doing. Why would it be Florida State if you don't plan on staying at Florida State? But he kind of offered some counterpoints that were good for discussion. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I just get intimidated around Ira. I don't want to let him down. It's like my dad, I don't want to let my dad down.
But you're cool with letting me down?
Well,
I'm more like a brother, right? I'm
yeah.
I'm like a bro.
Yeah, bro Corey.
Or a cousin.
Older bro Corey.
Yeah, it's closer.
Yeah, you're not too much older than my real brother, so but
Yeah, Ira's almost 60, yeah. So I get it.
Well, so yeah.
Well, I apologize to the listeners that you had to deal with Ira for a show. I apologize for that. Especially in hindsight, what a ridiculous reason to miss the show to go watch the team that you root for set a major league record for the most runs given up in a first inning of a postseason game.
History.
I don't think I've ever seen that many runs scored in an inning. So that was cool.
It made me think
they had 5 guys bat twice.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, it made me think of, what was it, Auburn and North Carolina in the Super Regional? It was Game 3 of their Super Regional this past year to go to Omaha, and I think Auburn hung 13 in the first inning on North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's over before you even get a chance to bat.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Oh, well. We'll get it. Hey, well, you know what? We'll get them next year.
We will. You guys will. I hope so, man. So we spoke to Willie on Thursday. Not a lot of news. I don't know if he was kind of being wily old Willie, but, asked about Juwan and Cole. Did say that Juwan will be available. Didn't say that Juwan would start necessarily, but Juwan would be available. Also said that Cole would be available, which was a question that was asked on the Renegade Express about whether or not we think at any point Cole would start this season. I said yes. Ira said no, and then promptly, gave a good explanation for why. I'm like, yeah, he probably won't start, but I'm sure he'll maybe get some action at some point this year. Really seems to, it's like, a bird in the hand as opposed to two in the bush or whatever in terms of having Cole available this year. Ira asked them on Thursday whether kind of the whole sixth year possibility factors into what they want to do and manage Cole, because he has missed an entire season due to injury, I think, his freshman year, so he could apply for that sixth year. And I guess maybe just with the way the NCAA has been handling things involving Florida State, whether it's Travis J, who's still ineligible, or the Jordan Travis fiasco or saga, rather, Willie was like, yeah, that's not for sure. So we're going to kind of maybe just, take it week by week sort of a thing. So I think I'd be really shocked if Cole Minshew played on Saturday. Would you not? He's huge though, man.
He does look, he's enormous. He's noticeably bigger than the other linemen. He just looks different. And he would be he would be a very needed addition to this offensive line unit, even if it's just for good depth. Because, I don't know, man. I don't know that some people don't want to be in college for 6 years. Like, some people are just ready to go. And especially if you want to be an NFL lineman, which I assume Cole Minshew wants, another year. Just if he can play the last month of the season at relative health, then maybe he has a shot of hooking on with the team next year. Maybe he just wants to start his life and not be a college football player for another year and a half. But it would be odd to me. Like I was having a text with someone that night, the day that we saw Cole Minshew out there. So whatever that was, Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, I can't imagine he plays this year. And I'm like, well, then what would he be doing out in full pads? Whether he'd just be on a bike. Like, what would be the point of being out there practicing if you're not trying to play, especially with a neck thing? So obviously he's been cleared enough with his neck to go out there and practice. And I just think he's not going to be in game shape, obviously, especially the way they go.
Yeah.
So he can't go 80 or 90 snaps at the pace they go, but maybe he can work himself into it and give Brady Scott our Luka, wherever they want to put him. Heck, left tackle, right tackle, give somebody else a break and play a couple series and just see how it takes. But yeah, I think that could be a good addition, don't you? That I thought he was done. Like, I'd forgotten, not that he was on the team, but it never even dawned on me that there was a chance I would ever see him at practice this year. And then he walked by us on Tuesday. So much so that when he walked by, I'm like, hey, to someone, I think Brendan, I'm like, hey, who's number 70? Is that Minshew?
Right.
He goes, yeah. I'm like, whoa, all right. Well, that's interesting. So you got to think he's not out there just for S's and giggles. He's out there to try to play. So I don't know if your first game of the year is against Clemson, but I do think you would definitely need him against Wake Forest, and he'd be a nice addition to that line if you have him for Wake Forest.
Yeah, the timing is interesting because he's battling a neck injury. He's had some concussions. He's had ankle problems. So, he's pretty battered. I thought he was headed for a medical DQ, to be honest with you. And to see him out there, so I kind of do wonder if, he must feel good enough to put his body through this again, which, maybe, but that's the thing, though. So it's like, would he rather have like a 6 year, like a fresh slate, let me give it one last ride, or let me just play now, I feel good, let me see if I can continue to feel good, and then I'll either declare or maybe I'll be able to get a 6 year. So,
and you never know, there might be, it might be in his head, like, you know what, these are the last 2 months that I'll ever be a football player.
Yeah.
Let me just go and try to play football because I love this sport and I want to just go out on my own terms and I want to be able to play a couple of games and not just limp to the finish line because of an injury. Not that I'm not, criticizing him for being injured, but I'm saying maybe in his brain, he wants to go out on his own terms and darn it, I don't want to stay for another 6 years. I'm done with college, but I want to play this season and see what happens and at least get a couple games under my belt as a senior to say I went out my way.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Alabama State's in trouble. Old Minshew, the road grader, coming at him on homecoming on senior day. That's gonna be big time.
Otherwise, kicker is something that maybe there would be a change, but Willie wasn't willing to disclose any of that sort of stuff. That's not a criticism, just telling you what he said about whether Grotehouse is going to be kicking field goals or if it's Ricky. He kind of joked, We'll pin it to what the coin toss is going to be. If it's heads, it'll be Grotehouse. If it's tails, it'll be Aguayo being the guy that kicks. So no sort of answers there. Again, we don't know what's going on with Juwan and the quarterbacks. James will start. We don't know exactly how they'll manage it, whether it's a feel thing. That's kind of a question I have before we really get to the over-under, because we've kind of exhausted everything to talk about when it comes to Clemson. But, if he has no, and you've said no one is deserve this job, you shouldn't anchor yourself if you're a coach, whether you're Kendall or Willie, to either Alex or James. You really don't owe those kids anything. Maybe you owe actually Alex more for transferring here and helping save you, because who knows if Jordan Travis could have done what Alex did against mighty NC State. But you need to get into I feel like a game like Clemson, don't you need to be in the mix? Don't you need to get a feel for things? Would it be fair to yank you after 2 series if you only produce, if you don't even get 1 first down, if you get 2 3-and-outs? I mean, I'm sure a lot of fans are dude, get him out of here. Get him out of here before it's too late. Put in Alex. But, I feel like a game of this magnitude, that opponent, that venue, you got to kind of get yourself into a little bit of a lather. I was kind of hoping Willie might give us some insight into how he approaches it, but he didn't really want to go down that avenue. I mean, are you at the point where you think if Clemson scores on their first 2 drives and Florida State doesn't, or if it's 0-0, does the score change at all how you would manage the quarterback, or is it all going to be how they're executing the offense and how they're playing?
Yeah, I don't think the score matters as much as how the offense is doing. Whether it's 14-0, 30-0, or 0-0, I think you manage the offense. If it's not going well, you switch it up. And I know they have a plan already. I would assume their plan is James gets the first 2 series, then Hornibrook gets the series, and then you go. In my opinion, you go from there, because I don't think you could just say, okay, James gets the first 2, Hornibrook gets the third. And then the 4th series, we go back to James. Well, what if Hornibrook looks awesome?
But what if James looks really good in his first 2 drives?
Absolutely.
Why would you put Alex out in the third?
Absolutely. And I think if he looks great in his first 2 drives, and I know they did it against Louisville, but I would keep Blackman in there. I mean, because he's not going to – if he looks great, say James Blackman, they get 14 drives and they score on 12 of them. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But you wouldn't – if you didn't pull him because you put up 55 points at Clemson, nobody after the game is going to be like, Willie, what are you doing? I thought you said Hornibrook was going to play. I think Willie's natural response would be like, yeah, we thought he was, but did you just see what we saw? They couldn't shut him down.
There'll be a bunch of fans that'll say that. Even if they hang 50 and lose, because there obviously will be a drive or 2 that they won't score on, there will be people that be like, oh, why did they put Hornibrook in? I guarantee it.
Well, those people, you can't. It's the lunatic fringe, man. You can't worry about that. They didn't score every drive up there in 13 either.
Right.
That's impossible. It's a great defense. They're not going to score that much. So it's a hypothetical that's not even really worth talking about. But if you think Blackman looks good in the first 2 series, and maybe a kid drops a pass, or maybe scores 2 touchdowns or a touchdown and a field goal, to me, it's odd to then go to a backup. But that if that's the plan going in, and you've got the certain script that Hornibrook is going to have, then go with what you've been working on all week. But, again, my counter to that would be if Hornibrook looks good, stick with him. If Blackman doesn't look great, Hornibrook comes in and moves him down the field. I don't think it should be I don't think it should already be known before the game, okay, who's going to get the 4th drive, or Hornibrook's only getting 1 series. I think it's basically Blackman gets the first 2, Hornibrook comes in, let's see what happens. But, you might end up going back and forth, which obviously won't. You hope one of them looks good, and then you just ride that guy. And I know Willie's not going to give that away, whatever that means by giving it away. I mean, that's how football works. If you have a hot quarterback, you stick with him. But, I really don't think there's a plan after the first 3 drives. I think if we're going to go by the blueprint of the Louisville game, Blackman gets the first 2 drives, Hornibrook gets the 3rd, or whatever it is. Blackman gets the first 3, Hornibrook gets the 4th. After Hornibrook's drive, I think all bets are off, and it's who looked good. And it's, I get it. If Hornibrook only gets 1 series and Blackman got 3, well, that's not a great sample size, but one of them's the starter and one of them isn't. So them the breaks.
Yeah.
But if Hornibrook plays well, you can't pull him if Blackman didn't play well. You know what I mean? That's why the Louisville game was so bizarre, because didn't Blackman lead 2 touchdown drives?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then Hornibrook came in and led a touchdown drive.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, well, Blackman played just as well as Hornibrook, so we'll go back to Blackman. But if it actually switches up where Blackman doesn't look good and Hornibrook does, or vice versa, well, you're riding the hot hand. You can't just say, okay, every 3rd series Hornibrook gets. That's not how life works. So I assume that that's a long-winded way of saying I don't think they have a plan after the 4th or 5th series, in the sense that I do think if Hornibrook just wows them, they're going to stay with Hornibrook. You know what I mean? You got to be fluid, right? You got to be malleable.
Yeah, and that's and like maybe I should play the whistle like the umbrage games. Some people or somebody on the tribal council was saying that was kind of took umbrage with a question that I asked Willie, so I took umbrage with him questioning why I'm asking Willie. Like there's a lot of times that we're going to ask questions that we don't necessarily need a literal answer to. I mean, we kind of hope to get a literal answer out of coachings or out of coaching staffs when we ask them these questions, but I don't need to know, hey, we're going to go Blackman, first 2 drives, and then, and then from there we're going to go even odds or something with, like, we're not trying to give away nuclear codes and stuff. We get that. We know the coaches hold all that sort of stuff to vest, but you kind of ask some of these questions sometimes to maybe just get some insight into, like, is it going to be a feel thing? Is there an actual plan to get Alex involved? We don't need to know when. We don't necessarily care when. It's just, how are they going to? How do you approach a game like this? And we're not trying to give away the strategy. We're not trying to know, what they're scripting the first 10 plays to be. So this whole thing of like playing things close to vest and people get sort of, they're wondering why we ask certain questions because they're like, well, what do you expect them to say? So you can answer a question in a multitude of different ways without giving stuff away. You can give insight into other sort of aspects of it from an esoteric sort of standpoint. So that's the kind of things that you kind of would hope to get from the coach. But, I I agree with you. He said, Monday they have a plan to get both those guys involved. So if you're saying that, there has to be some sort of point where you're going to put Alex in whether or not however James is playing, and then you're going to kind of figure it out from there. But,
I think the Louisville game, if I remember correctly, I think maybe they had a turnover on downs on their first drive against Louisville, and then Blackman led 2 touchdown drives, and then Hornibrook came in and led a touchdown drive. So that was their plan, I guess, in that instance, was the fourth drive of the game is Hornibrook. Blackman gets the first 3 because he's the starter, and then we go with Hornibrook. Well, okay, so that's the same plan this week, let's say. The question that I asked it on Monday too, like where does it go? Like, how do you determine who gets the second half? And is there, that's kind of what I just wonder that, like, are you just saying that Hornibrook's going to get a couple of pre-planned drives, or are you going to play by feel? I assume the answer is you play by feel, that you see who looked better in the first half or in their samples, and then you go from there, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the only thing that makes sense?
Yes, because there cannot be a script of plays that Alex is better at than James and vice versa. Like, the offense is the offense no matter who is in there. I don't think, people can be like, well, listen, James missed those throws of Virginia. He missed those reads. Well, that's like missing the read is different. There's nothing they're going to put in there that James is going to understand better than the play they ran against Virginia. He missed it, man. It happens. I'm sure Alex missed a read or 2 against NC State. It happens. So that's the sort of thing where this isn't Justin Fields and Jake Fromm. This isn't the option quarterback with the legs and the throwback pocket passer, and we have a certain play base that we can run with this guy that we can't with the other. So the offense is the offense no matter who is in there. So there's like no specific plays they can run out there. It has to be a feel thing. It does.
Yeah, but I would say that I'm sure there are plays where, I know they don't have a quote-unquote playbook, but I'm sure there are things that Hornibrook does better within the offense, sees quicker than James does, and vice versa. The weird thing here with this one is it's not like you're going from James Blackman to John Franklin, where, like, you know what I mean? Like, where Clemson has to really, really scout John Franklin because he's a runner. He's a much different quarterback. I think that's what you're trying to say, right? Like, they both do the same thing.
Yeah.
Both of them might do it similarly. Obviously Blackman has a stronger arm. Maybe Hornibrook gets out of his hands quicker, but the offense remains the offense no matter who's at quarterback. Now, if you were throwing Jordan Travis in there, or Travis J or Cam Akers, and it's just going to be a wild Cam, then obviously that's different if you have a running threat at quarterback. But these two guys are not running threats, either one of them. So the offense is the offense. So it really doesn't, for Clemson's perspective, I can't imagine it matters too much who the quarterback is. Yeah, they're just going to run their defense. They're going to blitz a lot, and they're going to try to play tight man-to-man. That's what they'll do when they blitz. That's Venable's plan, I'm sure. So it really doesn't matter to him who's back there, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I mean, my point was just that the plays are going to be the plays, I think, no matter. I don't know, man.
Right.
Like, I maybe you were disagreeing with me, which is totally fine. But, yeah, there's certain things that Alex saw better than James, like in the Louisville game, and made things happen. But, like, I don't think that's because, like, Alex has a better understanding of that specific play. That wasn't like an Alex play. Like, oh, Alex ran this really good in practice, and we can have him run it because James wouldn't be able to see this. It's the same plays, man. It's just Alex, for whatever reason, had a better feel for it on that snap, I think. So, yeah, I don't think there's like a different – I don't think there's a different approach for when one of those guys in there. Like, Kendall's going to call what he's going to call. The only thing would be just like the handedness, like the left-handedness versus the right-handedness and where the ball's spotted.
I think maybe the only thing that I think would be different is if they're blitzing a lot and they're getting a lot of pressure because they know that the left-handed kid can't beat them deep.
Okay.
They're not scared about that at all. Blackman at least makes you think a little bit because he can throw it a long, long way. And, he's got to throw it great distances.
Great distances.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's the one thing that might be different when you're trying to scout him is like, okay, one's in there. Do not let the guys get behind you because he can make that throw. You know what I mean? Don't peek. But in Hornibrook, you can peek maybe. You know that the ball's not going to be on you that quick. It's just maybe it changes the way the DBs cover a little bit. But I wouldn't think so. I mean, they're always going to be trying to be on their receiver. So I think maybe the only thing they would see is if one of them just cannot handle the blitz. Either Blackman's getting sacked every time or Hornibrook just can't beat him deep. He can't make the throws that need to be made to beat the blitz, something like that. But yeah, I'm with you. I think we're basically agreeing that it's not going to really matter to either any of the coordinators, the Venables or Bryles, who the quarterback is. I don't think it's just going to be who's playing better, and that happens. Sometimes athletes get hot, sometimes they get cold. Deshaun Watson, whenever that was, Dalvin's 2015. Deshaun Watson was terrible in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? I mean, he was awful. Florida State should have won that game if they could have gotten a modicum of decent quarterback play, or if Dalvin had two healthy hamstrings, they win that game because Deshaun Watson was awful until he started running at the end. So sometimes, and Deshaun Watson's one of the best college quarterbacks I've ever seen. He was just bad in that game. It happens.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Deshaun Watson, I did say on my radio show in Dothan that I thought the Browns should have drafted him first overall instead of Myles Garrett. That's like one of my best calls ever. But I couldn't even find it on the air check.
The Browns got Baker Mayfield, so they're set.
Yeah, they are set.
What would you pay as a Florida State alum? Obviously, you're a fan. It's not your money. I get it. Mm-hmm. But what would you pay to get Lincoln Riley in Tallahassee?
Ooh.
Because I was with my Braves buddies last night going to the game, or yesterday afternoon going to the game, and we were like all dreaming about Lincoln Riley being the Falcons' next head coach.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't doubt that'll happen, but it's like, what is that guy worth? Because I don't know how good Kyler Murray is. Baker Mayfield certainly setting the world on fire, and I know Jalen Hurts isn't a very good quarterback. Right. But because I saw it, he was at Alabama with a bunch of great players. But holy moly, what Lincoln Riley does with these guys is incredible.
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. I like the offense. Like I do. I mean, actually, I don't know. I just totally backtracked in a matter of 1 second without you even challenging me on that. It's frustrating to see the way this offense kind of sputters all of a sudden. But man, they're scoring 30 points, and like that's a crazy thing that people talk about. Like James Blackman goes into this sort of tailspin. It's like, well, dude, if James Blackman kept up his pace from the first quarter through 4 quarters, Florida State would score 80 points. Like nobody's scoring 80 points. Things get figured out. Teams adjust. And then you need to figure out ways to make a few plays in the second half, and then you're 5-0 at this point. So I mean, I don't know how much better Lincoln Riley is than Kendall. He's better, but yeah, just with the way the market is these days, I mean, you probably would have to pay him like what $9 a year to get him here, and I don't even know.
Oh yeah.
And then you're gonna have to spend a lot of money on a defensive coordinator as well because. I mean, that's been their bugaboo. I mean, they've made it to the playoff. They've put like 30, 40 points up in the games. I mean, when they played Georgia in that great game in the Rose Bowl, they were scoring. They got outscored, but their defense kind of failed them. So he would be fun. Yeah, that'd be a cool head coach to have.
That's not even a criticism of Willie Taggart. Like, hey, so we need somebody to replace Willie Taggart. No. I think almost every school in the country, literally 99.1% of the schools in the country, would love. I mean, Lincoln Riley. Just because what he does with these offenses and these quarterbacks. Now I know he's playing in the Big 12, but I saw Georgia try to defend Baker Mayfield 2 years ago, whenever that was. And Georgia had a great defense. They couldn't stop him. Alabama had a real hard time stopping Kyler Murray for the last 3 quarters of that game last year. It's just really remarkable what he does with those offenses.
It is.
The guys are always wide open. So anyway, I just thought that guy is going to be. I mean, he can name his price.
Absolutely.
Because I'm telling you, the Jalen Hurts thing, it's incredible. I watched him. I've seen it. I saw it up close in the 17 in the greatest opener of all time. That dude couldn't throw it 7 yards without throwing it in the dirt. And all of a sudden, he's turned into a Heisman candidate. Just dropping dimes everywhere. It's nuts.
Don't tell Stanford Samuels III that.
Well, yeah. Hey, you know what? He was supposed to have safety help over the top.
He was. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault, Stanford. It's not your fault.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Knolls since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. All right, let's get to it, man. Speaking of hot and cold, you said that about 2 minutes ago. I was going to use that as a segue to go into our over-under because you're on a hot streak and I'm ice cold. I went over in week 5. Week 6, we had the bye week, and we're back in week 7 now. By the way, man, I'm not going to. I love my job. I'm not complaining about my job. I really wish they would have had to bye last week. Or they did have a bye last week. I wish the bye was this week because you have Red River Shootout. That's what I'm going to call it until the end of time. Get off my back.
What do they call it?
Red River Rivalry.
Oh, it's not the shootout anymore?
No, it hasn't been for a while now.
Well, I get it, the connotations and everything, but it's hard for me not to say Red River Shootout.
Well, Red River Rivalry. Like, try to say that 2 times
Red River
fast.
Rivalry, yeah. It's like saying toy boat 5 times real fast.
Exactly. So that's going down. Then you've got Bama taking on Pops over in College Station, which I think is going to end bad for my guy. I think this. I don't want to say beginning of the end. I mean, I think spoiler. I think you picked A&M to at least cover, or whatever.
That's a lot of points for a home underdog. And they got talent, man.
They're not good though. They barely squeaked by lousy Arkansas. I mean, they got beat by Auburn. Like Bo Nix, he didn't light them up, but like Bo Nix beat them in College Station. Like Tua. With those weapons, yeah, man, but it's Alabama. That's the thing. Like, he's going to be shamed in the fact that he lost to Clemson, defending national champions. He lost to Auburn, which might be indefensible here in the next 3-4 weeks when they begin an inevitable tailspin. And he's going to have lost to Alabama. And then
the problem with that is no shame in his losses. The game against Arkansas was where you're like, man, what?
Right.
As a Texas A&M fan, I'm sure they're like, man, we get it that it's a really hard schedule, but this is a game you should be winning by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Why are we in a tie game late in the 4th quarter? What is going on? Yeah. What is this, Jimbo? I think that was I don't think nobody should be negative about losing to Clemson and Alabama. Well, yeah, you're right. We'll see about Auburn. That might end up not being a great loss at home. Yeah. But, I don't think anybody will give them grief for losing Alabama unless they lose by 50 points.
And I think they're getting restless out there. I don't read the threads, but I see people on War Chant bring over stuff from Texas A&M fans to kind of revel in Jimbo's failure.
But it's like, I guess it's just the money, right? Because what do A&M fans? What is their history and tradition that they fall back on? That this is like, what are we doing here? Like this is you, Texas A&M.
R.C. Slocum would
always
never do
been.
This. Yeah. Look at his timeline, everybody. His second year was a bit of a blip. 11 wasn't a fun year. 11 was kind of crummy. And then 12 got a little bit better, and then 13 was the best times of our lives. So
it was.
Hang in there, whatever you guys do. Thumbs up, gig 'em, whatever that
means. Gig 'em, yeah. Yep.
All right, to the over-unders. Here we go. First one. All these obviously come courtesy of the storied, illustrious sports book, Williams Sports, in Tallahassee, Florida, the Williams Sports Book. Check them out. 58 yards, Cam Akers rushing. Over, under. Corey.
Man.
It's a good number, Gene.
That is a good number because they are really going to do what they can to take him away. And if you get behind a lot, yeah, you know what? I'm saying over. I don't care. I'm saying over.
I am too. I'm taking the over because I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout. Like, spoiler, I'm going to take the over on the points scored. And 58 yards is just 2 good runs and then a whole bunch of 15 rushes that are just like kind of blah, right? Like a 3-yard loss of 1, gain of 2, loss of 1, no gain, 3 yards. And if you
can't have a -8.
Correct.
Remember last year he'd 2 runs a game would be -6 yards. We can't have those. We got to have them at least get into the line of scrimmage, which they've done a better job of this year.
I will say, in defense of my guy here, like the alternate was either -6 or like -3. And -3 is still better, but like when he would try to bust those things on the outside, like there was no way he was going to even get back to the line of scrimmage. Right. It was like he was giving up a no gain for what would be a 6-yard
yeah,
loss.
it was always going to be a bad play.
Yeah.
And they've done in my opinion, I think they've done a much better job of that. You don't see a lot of runs that are 6-yard losses this season. They've done a much better job of even the bad plays, at least making it 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 11 and not 2nd and 17.
Next one, we're going to keep it on the ground. Over under 70.5 yard or 70.5 yard for Travis Etienne running.
Over.
Wow, that didn't take you.
No,
that was quick. Why were you so fast?
I mean, you got to play the backup lineman at some point. Those guys aren't going to be in the game the whole time. I do think they're going to try to establish him. I don't know. I think in the bye week, in my opinion, the thing they probably worked on the most, the thing they probably decided to do the most is, hey, let's give it to our really awesome tailback a lot more than we've been doing. So I think they'll try to, even if they're banging their head against a wall, I think they're going to give him the ball, and he's going to he'll bust a couple. He's too good a runner not to.
You know how many yards he had rushing last year against Florida State?
Yeah, not much, right?
45.
See,
45.
Yeah. So he's chomping at the bit.
70.5. I feel like this is going to be just an air show, but 70.5, that's not a big number. I mean, they'll find a way to get that, right? Yeah, I'll take the over on that as well.
I mean, you got to think he's going to get 20 carries, 18 to 20.
He only got 10 last year.
I know, because what was the point?
Well, that is the point. Run the ball, get the game over with. But they kept freaking air raiding on us.
No, I mean, but like they were by the they it seemed like they after the first touchdown, it seemed like all their other touchdowns were like 3-play drives, 4-play drives. Like, and by that point, middle of the third quarter, there's no point in him being in the game anymore. But I think this one might actually be a bit more of a game.
Yeah.
And so in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, maybe he's still getting carries.
Okay, that's right. That's right. If I told you over under 7.5, the amount of ball carriers that Clemson had last year against Florida State, what would you have said?
I guess I would have said over.
Dude, 10. I just counted.
Yeah.
10 different people touched the ball for them last year, just running the ball.
Yeah.
Incredible, including Christian Wilkins, who, just rubbed their nose into it. Okay. Sacks on Trevor Lawrence, Florida State. Will they get to Lawrence? Get him on the ground 1.5 times. Over, under. I'm going to say
over.
Really? I'm going to go under.
Yep.
I think they'll get to him once. I don't think they'll get to him more than once, though.
Here's my theory on that. He's been told so much about it. He's been taught. His interception has been talked about a lot.
Okay.
And I think he might be a little more hesitant to make the throws that he knows he can make. Those throws into tight windows or anticipatory throws. So maybe he lets the blitz get to him. He would rather eat it than take a risky throw. Okay. That's what maybe that's been coached out of him a little bit to not take the risky throws and live to play another down. So I'm saying just in that regard, if it's not open, he's not going to risk it as much because he's tired of hearing about the interceptions and he'll take a sack instead. That's my theory.
Okay. I think this one, I think is really indicative of how the game will play out, which is a weird thing to kind of say, but 7.5 FSU penalties over under. Like if it's over 7.5, it's going to be an ugly game for Florida State.
Yeah. I wonder if Clemson is going to start getting the treatment that Florida State did forever when, like, the referees feel sorry for the other team, so they don't call the obvious holds. I wouldn't think so. It certainly hasn't seemed to be the case with Florida State lately, even though they haven't been very good. But I think maybe referees turn their other cheek a little bit on some of these things. 8 penalties is a lot.
It is, yeah.
It is a lot, and I assume we're saying accepted penalties. I'm going to say under. I think Florida State's going to be locked in, disciplined, and what I really worry about is the pass interference. I think that's going to happen a few times.
I see 2 false starts. I see a hold.
Oh yeah.
I see an intentional grounding. I see a defensive frustration, personal foul. That's like 5. And like, could I really see 3 more penalties out there? Because I do think it's going to be a pretty competitive game for a large part of the contest. I got to have separation. I'm going to take the over. I can't.
All right. Okay.
Parroting you. Snaps to non-quarterbacks for FSU 1.5. I'm pounding the over on that.
Snaps to non-quarterbacks.
Yeah. So Cam, DJ, Kalen. Anybody who's
I'm going to say under on that.
Really? Only one?
Just one, man. I think they haven't done it much at all this year.
Well, they're saving.
I think if you're going to save stuff, you save it for Wake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A game that you can win.
They're going to Clemson to win.
28-point underdog.
They're going to Clemson to win, Corey.
I know.
Really said it.
But
they're going to Clemson to win.
Just save it.
Total points scored. This is the official line. 60.5. Man, I feel like we can just give Brady just a whole new life ahead of him if we just put a large sum of money on 60.5 on the over and pound it, Corey.
You think the over is automatic?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think the Florida State defense has gotten better, but Clemson's still going to score in the upper 30s, and I think Florida State's going to be able to score in the 20s.
That's the one I'm not so sure about. That's the one that I'm not so sure about. And you don't know who your kicker is. You certainly can't count on field goals being made. That's what leads me to believe that maybe it'll be under.
Okay.
That's what I am going to take the under.
All right. And as I was saying that, I was just kind of thinking about, if Clemson doesn't grow from the bye week, like if they come out playing the way they have, I mean, their offense didn't really light up A&M, and I know Mike Elko's a great defensive coordinator and yada yada. But I mean, they lit up Syracuse and Charlotte and Georgia Tech. Like, this is actually going to be a legitimately decent defense. Like, they're not going to roll over. So, like, for me to say it's like an almost certainty that they're going to hang 40 on Florida State's defense might be a little presumptuous. I think that's to be more presumptuous than Florida State hanging 20. They'll get in the end zone 3 times.
All right. Okay. So you're sticking with the over is what you're saying.
I am sticking. I am sticking with the over for sure. Also, by the way, all this stuff, take it for a grain of salt. Remember, I was telling everybody to pound the over on UMass. UMass, I think the over-under last week for them was like 63.5 or maybe even a little bit higher playing FIU. FIU scored 44, which is really good. But UMass, my boy, Walt Bell, got shut out. So
they lost 44-0?
Yeah.
Whoa,
FIU.
Come on, man.
But it was at FIU. I mean, no one just
Well, that's a snake. Yeah, that's it's hard to. You can't hear the snap count ever.
Yeah.
Place is just too rowdy. Still though, we need to not score 0 points.
Yeah, that was bad.
He didn't even do that at Florida State, did he? They at least scored 3 in every game.
Yeah. Butch Davis, man, he knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
He knows what he's doing. All right, that's it. Those are the over-unders. Submit your picks on War Chant. We'll give you some free Zaxby's if you're in the top 5. I think, what should we do here, Corey? I'm thinking either does first place get a T-shirt or should you have to ace it and go 6 for 6 to get the T-shirt?
I mean, I feel like we got a lot of T-shirts.
We do have a lot of T-shirts.
So I don't think we should be so stingy with them.
Okay.
I would say definitely if you finish in first or if you finish first and second. I don't know.
Okay. First and second for our subscribers. If you're on Twitter only and submitting your picks, you have to ace it, right?
Okay. There you go. That's perfect.
Yeah, give subscribers a little bit of an easier path. You can always just sign up for the free trial, everybody. 30 free days, WarChant 30, and then before you know it, it'll just be taking $10 out of your credit card every month, and it won't even bother you. You'll be like, oh, I'm helping Corey live a better life. And
Thank you exactly right, and we appreciate it.
All right, Corey. I'm going to actually start making my way up to see you, my friend. I'll be up in the greater Atlanta area, and then we'll rendezvous. Actually, I need to get a hold of Ira real quick because he probably has our parking pass or our credentials. We probably need those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll do that. Corey, it's a big game. It's a defending national champs. I think we spoke to Willie twice. He said that 9 times. this is a proud program in Florida State. It's Death Valley, though. It's what I think is the mecca of college football. You disagree. Florida State fans, what should they be thinking? How should they manage their emotions and maybe attack the day that lies ahead on Saturday into what could be a very enthralling contest?
Just go in with really low expectations and hope to be pleasantly surprised. That's kind of how I live my life. I think that's how most people should live their lives. Don't always have so much hope. Hope is a dangerous thing. Just don't have any hope at all. Be cynical. Wonder if they're going to score 50. And then when it's a game in the fourth quarter, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. That's what you have to do. Don't believe until there's reason to believe. That should be a t-shirt, right? All these people that believe at all times, who are they? That doesn't exist. What kind of life is that? Then you're always disappointed. Instead, don't believe until they give you reason to believe. And when they do give you reason to believe, you believe with every ounce of your body until you can't believe. You believe so hard you can't believe anymore. And then also rest easy knowing you're not a Braves fan and that baseball is the worst sport on earth. I feel cursed that I had to become I couldn't have been born in Boston. Who would have ever said that 25 years ago? Boston was the cursed town, remember? But yet they win a championship every other year. Washington's even won a championship here lately in a sport. Not the Braves, not Atlanta, except Major League Soccer. Which, anyway, have a great weekend, everyone. You know we love you here at Wake Up War Chant. And no matter what happens Saturday, the sun's still going to come up. We're still going to be watching football. We're still going to have Aslan. Life is great. Love each other. And believe when they give you reason to. Aslan, I'm out.
Unlike fanny packs, bowl cuts, and troll dolls, the sensation is back, only at Zaxby's. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich features hand-breaded chicken, Asian slaw, wonton strips, and citrus vinaigrette, and both are served with an egg roll. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich meal for a limited time only at Zaxby's. And skip the line when you order ahead on the Zaxby's app or on Zaxby's.com.